What up, guys? Welcome to Angelasavalon's YouTube channel. I'm Angela. Subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and leave your comment and feedback down below in the comments at the end of the video. Okay, so I'm currently actually in the backyard outside. I'm actually in my very temporarily in my brother's place because I'm sort of homeless at the moment. But yeah, anyways, this video is gonna be about 12 house synastry. So basically it's about the 12 house relationships synastry. It's about when personal planets of someone falling into someone's 12th house. It's basically between two people, right? Overlay. So yeah, so this is actually a very, very interesting synastry to have. You know, in my 8th house videos I did mention that this guy, you know, in my recent 8th house synastry videos I mentioned, you know, the story about the two brothers, and that the older brother had his Mars in my 8th house. So he also had this he had this moon in my 12th house. So I think it was the only relationship that I got the taste of the 12th house and the 8th house in one synastry. I mean combined. I think it was the only one. But anyways, yeah, and right after, not right away immediately, but after this guy, it was almost a year after my relationship started and ended with the guy that one of the brothers, the older one, that his Mars was in my his Mars was in my 8th house, but his moon was in my 12th house. I met almost a year later. I met this French-Dutch scientist, and I was completely mesmerized by him, almost hypnotized. And his Venus and Mars were in my 12th house, and I could to this day, it's something that I can only describe as divine intervention. The 12th house will do that, you know, the 12th house synastry especially will do that. The planet person, especially if it's Venus and Sun, especially if it's Venus or Sun, if not both, the Sun or Venus, the Sun or a Venus person, right? They will feel like a god to the house person. Like, let's say the house person is a heterosexual female. What will happen is that when she sees, the second she sees the planet person, especially if it's either Sun or Venus, she'll be mesmerized. The way that she'll experience the entire thing will be like somebody took the fantasy of her dream man in her mind. Somebody, like, it's almost like God, like she had this image of her this fantasy of a dream man, right? And when she saw the planet person, it's like it feels like it's gonna feel to her as if God saw her, knew what her fantasy was, what her dream man was, and brought the dream man to the 3D world to her. Like her fantasy man basically came to life and appeared to her in the 3D world that we live in reality. It sounds like fantasy became reality, that kind of thing. And that's gonna feel that way. That's why the planet person is gonna feel like a god to the house person, right? So if let's say the house person is a heterosexual female, the planet person, the man, is gonna feel like a god. He's gonna feel like this godly creature, this beautiful. It's gonna be love at first sight kind of thing. It's gonna be love at first sight kind of thing, and also like the house person, the female, she's gonna be like, oh my god, I fantasized about this. This is exactly what I dreamed of. This is exactly how I visualized it. How is that real? How is he flesh and blood? How is this in the 3D, in my 3D reality? She's gonna feel like she's somehow mysteriously manifested him, even if she did nothing to really manifest him. That's why it's gonna feel like divine intervention. It's gonna be like, I did nothing to manifest it. It's like God just gave the plant person to me for just like that. Yeah, and there's gonna be synchronicity, especially with moon in the 12th house. The moon person, like with this guy, the older the older brother that I was involved with, right before I met the French scientist, the moon was in my 12th house, and there was synchronicity. There was I felt like I could tell him things that I couldn't really tell anyone else, that I didn't even want to tell anyone else, and I felt like I could tell him that because this kind of overlay will do that. The moon in the 12th house. It's very. There's gonna be a lot of synchronicity, and even dreams too. Like the house person can dream about the planet person a lot, and some of the dreams might actually manifest in the 3D world, but sometimes it can be vice versa. The planet person also might dream about the house person. But the thing is, in my case, it's kind of strange, because I did have dreams about the Dutch scientist, right? About the French scientist that I met. Is Venus and Mars was in my 12th house, and I did have dreams about him, and I still do to this day, even though it was years ago, like 4 years ago. I still have I have no contact with this man, mind you. I still dream about him now and then to this day, and I think it will probably continue. And a lot of these dreams are prophetic too. But the thing is, with the older brother, I didn't have dreams about him. I don't dream about that would just maybe refer to him to the maybe should refer to him to the city guy, so that it will not be confusing, or whatever. I'll just keep calling him the older brother. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So the point is, so I did not have dreams about, even though I was the house person with the city guy, the or the brother, even though I was the house person and he was the moon, and his moon was in my 12th house, I did not have dreams about him, but I did have my fantasies. Like, I did fantasize a lot about him, and even when I wanted to get back to him, that what he did to me, the scandal that I was talking about in the 8th house synastry video of mine, it manifested, like, because it's did like things like because the 12th house is the house of secret enemies. So even though there was a lot of synchronicity and it was a secret affair, it's also the house of secret affairs. The thing is, the planet person might end up being the enemy of the house person, which is what happened in my case. It's not going to happen in all cases, but it definitely happened in my case with him, because with the French scientist it did not happen. He is not my enemy, and I don't believe he will ever be an enemy of mine. So in some cases it might be. It really depends on the individuals involved in the scenario. So yes, the moon was in my 12th house, and he ended up being my enemy. And I used to fantasize about all kinds of things. I used to fantasize that we were reunited after it happened, right after the scandal and everything happened between us. I used to have these fantasies like endlessly. I used to write poetry about him, which is actually used to be back in the day one of my best works. Like, I was told that it was one of my best works, and it was about him. And I used to have all these fantasies about him, like all kinds, like combined, like fantasies that we reunite with one another, and that we forgave one another. And also I used to have dark fantasies, plutonic ones, because his Mars was in my 8th house as well. His moon was in my 12th house, and his Mars was in my 8th house. So I used to have fantasies about getting back at him and what he did to me. Like, basically him, like, getting his karmic punishment and stuff. And the thing is, it manifested. It did, because a year after, it was like about a year, I think, no more even, like a year and a half later, after our relationship ended. It's the story with one of the brothers, right? Not the French scientist. I found out that he is actually homeless in Alaska, and he was struggling. He kind of, in a way, almost died, I want to say. And he got his punishment, and it's like manifested. This is what I asked. I wanted him, like, I'm not going to lie, I wanted revenge. I was the 8th house, like, that's gonna happen if you're the 8th house. But I mentioned him in this video because his moon was in my 12th house, and I was also the 12th house as well as the 8th house. Okay, and that's why many of my fantasies was actually reuniting with him and forgiving him and even taking care of him. I used to have fantasies that it comes to me like all injured, and I took care of him. It was all kinds of fantasies. And I meant those, like, I even in a way wanted those, I yearned for those. Those never happened, of course, in the 3D world. Only the one that he ended up being homeless and begging for my brother's attention. That's the only one that came true. But anyways, he needed to pay his karmic debt. It was not even have anything to do with me. I believe that it was, like I said, we both had to pay the price. I paid my price, he paid his. It was way bigger than, it was above both of our pay grades, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's almost unfortunate in a way, because the planet person might feel godly in a way to the house person, but what happens, what ends up happening is that the planet person either ends up being the secret enemy, or he just ends up being a huge disappointment uh, to the house person, I mean the planet person, ends up being a huge disappointment to the house person, because the house person keeps putting all these expectations to on the planet person to meet, and the planet person cannot manage to meet them, and the planet person, like, in a way realizes that he cannot meet all these expectations that the house person wants them to meet. It can be the person the house person wants them to be. So what happens is that when they first meet, the house person might feel like, oh my god, the planet person is my fantasy, oh my god, can't believe it came true. But what happens is that after a while they realize that it's not like that, it was just an illusion, and the tragedy of the house person is that they get disillusioned very intensely when they realize that the planet person is not who they thought they are, is not their fantasy, is not who they wanted, who is not who they want them to be, and they get disillusioned and disappointed, and the rose colored glasses get all broken, and they get like turned off even, because they're like, oh, you're not this, you're not the pedestal that I had, you're not what my vision told me you are. And in a way sometimes they might really depends on the individuals and the situation. Like, it might be like the house person might be like, internally, right, they might be like, oh, what, you're not my vision, you're not what spirit told me you were, what, bye, ew. That kind of thing. because they really cannot handle the reality of what the plant person is. And the thing is, they might actually not be even that. It's like it might not be even that bad. But the thing is, after they realize that when they realize the truth and the reality of the planet person, that person is just like, they're done and they're disappointed. They're heartbroken, because the disappointment and the disillusionment will be so big that they will experience the entire thing as a heartbreak, and even experience deep resentment towards the house person, towards the planet person, even though the house person will understand that it's not the. Even though the house person understands that it's not the plant person's fault, still they will experience some resentment, and towards the entire relationship they will experience resentment, and it's just it's just a bit unfortunate. So contrary to popular belief, when it comes to the 12th house specifically, I do believe that it can work, depends on the individuals, but it is a hit or miss. I'm not going to lie, it's a hit or miss. But the thing is, when people come to my when they come commenting on some of the of my videos about like the 8th house, I do want to say that the chances of a 12th house relationship to work better than the 8th house is bigger, because the 12th house can be very it can be very beautiful. It can stay that way too, but both people need to be really mature and not be so attached to expectations. And I would say like the same to the 8th house. But the thing is that the 8th house, it's almost like when people come into a relationship, when the two people that are involved in an 8th house relationship, the thing is that who they were when they just met each other might change drastically, sometimes even after just a year of the meeting. That's why it's very difficult for it to work. When the 12th house is just, the 12th house is just expectations. It's not necessarily that somebody changed. It's just that the illusion was broken. And again, if they are mature, that doesn't have to happen, okay? And so at least that's my opinion. Some astrologers might disagree, but it's my opinion. yeah, even because even now, currently, like I mentioned, you know, the French scientist, and he was, like I just mentioned in this video, you know how I mentioned that the planet person might feel like a god, like the dream guy came come, like the fantasy guy came to life kind of thing. That's what that French scientist was for me, and he was the plant person, I was the house person. And when I first saw him, I was mesmerized. Like I was like, oh my god, this is my fantasy. He looked exactly like the guy I always want, like my dream guy, like the guy I always wanted him, like I always wanted my. He looked like the guy I always wanted my dream guy to look like, my dream man, right? But that doesn't mean that he's Mr. Perfect. And me being the house person, I even subconsciously, because it's 12 house, I use the subconscious. Me even like in retrospect, I understand that I subconsciously made him Mr. Perfect in my head, and I shouldn't have done that. Like I put all these heavy expectations on him to meet. So it's not his fault, it's not my fault. This is just what the 12 house synastry does sometimes, you know. So yeah, this is just one example of how it can go. Well, in my case, 2 examples that I gave how it can go. The second example, of course, is when, you know, the more unfortunate thing happens, that the plant person becomes the secret enemy of the house person. And you know, I don't doubt that for some people it was the opposite, that the house person was the secret enemy. You know what, in our case actually it was maybe mutual. I think we both were secret enemies of each other now when I think about it. Now when I think about it, it really was that way. We both were the secret enemies of each other, and we both perceived the other to be the enemy, you know. So that can happen. That can actually be mutual. You both the house and the plant person might become secret enemies of each other. That can happen as well. I believe that's what happened in my case with this guy. So yeah, and so again, really depends on the maturity of the individuals. If they're both very mature, healthy, and they are willing to take the risk that, you know, just, you know, letting the chips fall and, you know, flowing, and see where the relationship is gonna go between the two, then yeah, that can be great. But yeah, and actually, like, I'm gonna just, you know, as I end this video, I'm gonna mention that I actually have, like, my current crush, his sun, Mercury and Mars are in my 12th house, and you know, your girl is working on manifesting it. So you see, I'm telling myself the same thing, you know, to approach it in a healthy way, you know, because there's a lot of idealizing with this placement. You know, if you're the house person, and I was the house person in all of these cases that I mentioned. I was the house person, like I mentioned. So let me guys know if you want me to make a part 2. Maybe I'll make it right away, I'm not sure yet, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, so give it a thumbs up, leave your comments down below, leave your feedback, please do. It helps me and it helps other people as well to know your guys' story and experience. And please shoot me a donation. My links are down below. Either one of them will be fine. Please shoot me a donation. I would greatly appreciate it. Yes, it will help me a lot, and my channel too. And I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm barely at 20 subscribers, and I'm trying to get to 1,000. That way I can monetize and go live and answer your guys' questions right away. So please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, and also share this video if you find it helpful and you think it can help other people. Yeah, so share the video as well. I need mention that as well in the videos. So yeah, see you in the next video. Bye.